Okay, recording. All right. So, does anybody have anything they'd like to say at all?
I've just noticed with meditation, I think I've mentioned this once or twice in calls before about I was meditating sort of just watching the breath. So just noting what was there at the time. And my meditation wasn't good. I was all over the place. And then just talking to Dhammarato about, I don't know if controlling is the right word, but sort of, taking a long breath, breathing in, breathing out, deliberately sort of taking a long breath, and I find that my meditation's been really good since I've started to kind of deliberately take a long breath or deliberately take a short breath. And then someone reminded me the other day, and I have listened to it before, Dasa Bhikkhu or Ajahn Jeff, who talks about take whatever breath suits you at the moment, like whatever breath you need at the time. I'm not sure. I can't remember his exact words, but and I thought, yeah, it's so right. Like, do whatever kind of works for you at the time, rather than just. I'd sort of been taught that, you just don't have any control over your breath, or don't, like, just watch it. And I just, for me, it's not. It wasn't really working, because my mind was just, it wasn't enough to be able to keep that focus. So yeah, I guess I'm just trying to say that, yeah, my meditation's been really good since I've started to deliberately kind of use whatever breath suits me at the time.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever floats your boat, whatever works.
Yep.
If standing on your head, flipping upside down works, go for it.
I might try that next.
Yeah. Yeah. Some people have their guidelines are a little different for each person, and that's good. It's good that it's fluid, because like everything, it's changing. And if we stick too tightly to one dogmatic thing, it could be kind of causing dukkha and stuff,
Yeah.
So, and there's an era of like relaxation and not really giving a fuck when you have a carefree attitude, and you almost have more, you let go more when you have a carefree attitude,
Yeah.
It's not so. What's that, buddy?
Oh, I was just going to say, I probably tend to be a little bit rigid, sort of like, I've discovered this way of doing things, and this is what I'm always going to do. Whereas I'm trying to learn to be a little more flexible, and try and not to be so stuck in a certain practice, or a certain way of meditating, or a certain way of kind of doing things.
Yeah, we all have bad habits that we're trying to get out of, because society has very little to do with like Dhamma practice. It's like the opposite. So, we have, however old we are, we have that many years, 30, 40 years of bad habits. And it's all just, if we view it just as all anicca, dukkha, anatta, impermanent, causing dukkha, if we cling to it, inherently empty, it kind of simplifies things, It's like, just go home to the breath if you're not feeling well. Just breathe and relax. And it doesn't really matter anyway.
Yeah.
Being able to play with the breath, and kind of giving that permission that, hey, we can play with the breath and we can have fun with it, has been of benefit here. So, because I resonate with Luke there, and that kind of rigid approach of, you can't play with the breath or don't, do anything with the breath.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of good. I mean, again, yeah, it doesn't necessarily have to be force or what have you, but just to play with the breath, experiment with it, see what kind of effects, it has, taking a long, relaxing breath, or even taking the shorter breaths I find here are really fun to play with and can sometimes help with relaxation as well. So like what you're saying with, hey, whatever breath you kind of seems to be good in the moment, go for that one and take it and just enjoy and be satisfied and content with that. Yeah.
Yeah, and with consistency and practice over as the days pass, and I've said this before, but you'll see how you can spend whole days just focusing on your breath. Not rigidly, not like not as a rule, but occasionally in a balanced way, or if things are troubling you, it seems that if you look and there's some dukkha there, just take shelter in the breath, and then days will pass, and you'll be like, "Huh, I know if I wasn't taking shelter in the breath, my mind would have just been, attaching to all kinds of stuff, causing all kinds of dukkha." There's hermits who've gone off and lived. There's monks, but hermits kind of gets a little separation from the religion thing. But look at a hermit who spends 30, 40 years in the wilderness. He doesn't got politics. He doesn't have a wife. He doesn't have a friend. He doesn't have the ups and downs of society, and they do just fine. They're quite content waking up,
Yeah.
putting on their shoes, taking a piss, eating some food, going to bed, getting some water. It's not that complicated. That's the Dhamma. The truth is everything is fine.
Yeah.
That's the truth. We make Theravada Buddhism. We make things called Dhamma. We make religion. We make rules. We make regulations. We make rituals. We make superstitions. This shit doesn't exist. Stay silent and you'll see reality unveil itself.
Yeah.
No up, no down, no right, no wrong, no being, no becoming, no birth, no death, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, there's some pretty cool videos of like hermits up. I think they're in China, like who live up in the mountains, like these old dudes who've just been there for forever, and they just like you say, they just get up every day and it's the same routine. And you think, oh man, I don't know, pretty cool.
Yeah, and the more attached we become, we take that truth and we make religions out of it. We make groups out of it. We make a society out of it. And therein lies the problem. We're taking all this stuff and labeling it and making distinctions. And it's just a joke, sure, on some level it's helpful and can be useful, but it's too out of balance. And people, even when it comes to Dhamma itself, the Dhamma practice, we don't want to hear the truth. We want to be entertained. We don't want to hear the truth. We don't want to experience the truth. We want to be part of something that we can move up or, stay away from moving down in. We don't want to hear the truth. We want to be on the right side with this group over here, not on the side that's wrong with this group over here. It's like the truth is simple. The truth is not really, it can be, but it's not generally looked at as like exciting. It's entertaining. But you get a story going, and it becomes really entertaining. What if I put on some saffron robes and shave my head? I say, man, I've been in the cemeteries, man. I've been seeing ghosts and all this shit and flying. I've been to Tibet this time, Thailand this time, and all this stuff. Then, oh, wow, like children with shiny objects, candy. Oh, wow, I'll pay attention to this. And all the while, you're listening to hours and hours of Dhamma talks, not getting shit out of it. Because you're wrapped up in the same game, the same play.
Yeah.
Same bullshit.
Trying to get
catch.
Oh,
sorry,
no.
Go, dude.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no. I was just going to say, just trying to get some magical goodie. And so it's like coming back to being like, hey, you're okay without any magical goodies. Actually, the absence of wanting anything is far more profound and satisfactory than any of those little magical goodies, or the, that spiritual what is it, materialism. So like getting all those different objects, like, no, just chilling out, that's it, Yeah.
Yeah, I used to find if I'd have days where I'd take 8 precepts at home, but I would just, for entertainment, I would just end up watching Dharma videos all day instead of watching, some other like sports videos all day or whatever.
Good.
But it was kind of the same thing. I was just doing it for entertainment. So it's still like, well, what am I really achieving here? Am I actually, kind of dedicating or am I just watching videos, Dharma videos, as another distraction? That's all it really was,
Yeah, there's nothing too wrong with finding joy in the wholesome entertainment, but even at the end of the day, it's like, those things go away, they don't last. The good, the bad, the ugly, they don't last. So we don't get too attached to them. If you want to cling to something, cling to Dhamma practice. But ironically, when we're clinging to Dhamma practice 100%, we let go even of that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people still obsessed with what they believe to be Dhamma practice, and it's really just a bunch of superstitious nonsense. But to each their own.
Yeah. I used to practice Pure Land Buddhism. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar too much with Pure Land, but like I had this a lady who was kind of my teacher. She wasn't a nun, but she was a lay person. But she'd be like, "Oh, you can say Ami Tawful, like the Chinese version, while you're doing this, this, and this, but you're not allowed to say it while you're doing this, this." And I'm like, what does that mean? Like, I don't know. It just seemed odd to me that you're sort of, if you're doing certain practices, you're not allowed to say it. If you're doing certain things, you are allowed to say it. I don't know. It's just all a bit odd.
Yeah, it's weird. And you see it with everything too. It's almost like, hello, Alexander and Paul.
Hi, guys.
Welcome.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Dhammadas.
Hello.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, Paul.
Welcome.
You see it like, with Christianity, it's so wonderful, but then you have all this mumbo jumbo. I grew up Catholic, and you just look at a Catholic mass and it's lovely, there's nothing wrong with these things. But when you look at the people so invested into them to the point that's causing dukkha, it's like these things, it's so weird. Talking snakes and burning incense and some guy in a robe. And then you go to the Vatican, there's guys on golden thrones, and like clearly you can read Jesus's writings and John the Baptist. They like ate locusts and honey and lived in the wilderness and had very little possessions. Nobody seems to understand that stuff. And and then let's take another one. Let's say atheism, for instance. People who are very scientific minded, atheistic, blah blah blah. It's a whole other kind of thing, and they're more obsessed with God than people who actually believe in God. Sometimes all they talk about, you can't believe in God because this, you can't believe in God. It's like every other word out of their mouth is God, God, God. And they may not have the golden thrones, but in their mind, the golden thrones is I'm right. That's my golden throne. I'm right. I have science. I could prove it. I'm right, and that's their thing. Then you get the Theravada, Zen, Buddhists, whoever. We got the robes, man, and we have a certain way of doing things, and you better do it this way or else it's fucked. Or else you're not doing it right. You don't get it. That's a big one in Buddhism. Get it. He gets it. You get it. I get it. This group gets it. They don't get it. It's all bullshit. Get it. What are you going to get? That's why I like using the term automatic. Everything is automatic. If you don't believe me, just try to stop it. Try to stop the truth. Try to stop what's happening right now. Good luck. Hi, guys. Who else joined here? Hi, Edvard.
Welcome.
Huzzah! Good to see y'all smiling faces. How we feeling?
Good.
Cool.
Doing all right, thanks.
But anybody got anything to say, especially for the newcomers? Anything on your mind, Dhamma related? Has the week been going well with your guys' minds? A lot of dukkha, a little dukkha.
I think one other cool system that you didn't mention, well, actually not cool, hot, another hot system is capitalism. That's just another one I wanted to bring in there. Yes,
Identity politics as well, even outside of capitalism. Was clinging to I'm Republican. I'm sure in the last 5 years, all of us, each one has experienced with our own families, whatever your beliefs may be or whatever the fuck, political views, whatever. But it's so much different from 5-10 years ago. This last 5 years, it's like if families are separated, friends are divided, and it's just very, with the advent of the internet, everybody's really identifying strongly with their political beliefs, and it doesn't seem like it's making people very joyful. So why do it? Let go of politics. Who needs it?
Yeah, you're right. It's actually compulsory to vote here in Australia. You have to vote or you get fined. But
The democratic way.
yeah,
Must vote or we'll throw you in jail.
I think there's there's 3 countries in the world where they do it, and for whatever reason we do it. But generally, in fact, it's not compulsory to vote, but it's compulsory to go to the polling booth and get your name crossed off, and then you can leave. So that's I actually don't vote anymore. I just do that. If I have to vote, I just go get my name crossed off and leave, because I'm just like, I don't know. I'm just a bit like what you're saying. I've just become less. I've gone the other way. I've become less interested in politics, because it's just. It's all just, everyone's got an agenda, and they're just pushing their agenda constantly and pretending like they're being righteous or whatever. But it's like, you're just pushing your agenda, man. Like, I'm just not interested.
Especially in this society, these guys aren't practicing the Dhamma. They couldn't be loyal to their own mothers if they wanted to. You think they care about the citizens' health and the citizens' morale and all these things? They don't care. Only in so much as it suits them. But in a way, that's perfect too, because I watched a clip of the Roman Empire, and it did a timeline, a sped up timeline of how many emperors gained control and lost power, and it showed in the color red, Rome expanding and contracting. And it looked almost like breathing. I mean, they're going past, I think the Roman Empire was like 1,000 something, 1,500 years, something like that. I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. But anyways, it was a long ass time. And these things are just expanding and contracting. And you see Rome growing, shrinking sometimes, getting bigger. And then finally at the end of the video, it gets to its end, And all the while that video is playing, they're giving you little tidbits of information about all the Roman emperors, Caligula, all the Caesars, Marcus Aurelius, all these things. And you see fucked up emperors, you see great ones, you see ones that were medium, you see ones that were shitty, up and on. And it's like, I'm sure if you just pause the video at any given time and can travel back in time to that area, they would be so caught up in what's going on at that moment with politics and identifying with it. Oh, wait, you guys got to see this. We have to vote. It's life or death and all this stuff. But from an outside perspective, like in that video, you see it's just a blink of an eye. It's just meaningless. Just like in America today, or wherever you guys may be, whatever country you guys may be, it's a blink of an eye. So there's no use getting caught up in this anicca, dukkha, anatta. It's all impermanent. It all comes and goes. You know, there's nothing we can hold on to. There's nothing we can do. And it goes back to things being automatic. What can you do to stop it? What can you do to stop reality? What can you do to become enlightened? What can you do to not become enlightened? This makes no difference. It's happening. It is what it is. Yeah. You can either just like be okay with that or spend a lifetime fighting it. But you just gotta go with the flow, you know. Oh, Edward, could you mute your mic if you're moving your microphone? Por favore.
One other thing I really like about the Roman Empire and looking at it through the lens of anicca nature is to see how the calendar changed over the time that the Roman Empire existed as well. So the very basis for time was just in flux as well. I think Julius Caesar made one of the calendars last an extra like 4 or 5 months or something to catch up with the rest of them.
Yeah.
It's so even getting caught up in how long someone's around can be silly.
Yeah. I want to see how long the Roman Empire actually spanned. Does anybody know? Roman Empire.
Yeah, but that's interesting. I balance both. Like, there's something I could do. There's something that needs to be done. Let's go do it. And also, we're good now.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that's a good point there. Yeah, Eddie. And yeah, I think even, if it comes to something like voting, if somebody feels like
About
participating,
1,000
it's like,
years. Sorry,
uh,
DJ.
oh,
Go
that's
ahead.
cool. Yeah, 1,000 years. But it's like, hey, can you do so, happily, and from a place of goodwill, right? And just like, okay, cool. But I mean, the point with the Dhamma is that it is a refuge beyond all of that, because in all honesty, it's shaky. And so having that security that even if whatever turmoil comes up, one is still going to be okay. And this is also coming, to terms with like anicca of, everything, including, we're going to pass away, right? And everything's going to pass away. So it's like, okay, there's this refuge beyond that. But if we do engage, I think it's like good to be like, hey, there doesn't necessarily need to be a rule on this. If one feels like engaging with, that world, to do so with, to do so with goodwill. And I think one thing that can be easily caught up is like this intense sort of zeal when it comes to politics. And I mean, I can understand where folks are coming from, but from a Dhamma lens, we can see how, when it comes to ill will and hatred, how it's just not productive. And really, for like living a balanced and healthy life, here, like with what you have, right, with what's available, right? And so rather than having like this, we're going to take on all the problems of the world, just care for the world one step at a time, one breath at a time, where we can, where it's actually manageable, and we can do so joyfully, rather than like this like angry zeal of like, that being the driver, right? And so it's like, hey, you know what? No, if we can, from a place of generosity and goodwill, do what we can. But ultimately, we know there's no lasting satisfaction to be found anywhere there. So, and that's okay, right? So to be able to play with the sandcastles, yeah.
Yes.
It's kind of finding that balance between detachment but also compassion, right?
Yeah.
Not being too detached where you become apathetic about everything, but also being compassionate enough to kind of care about what's happening, but not be too attached to it.
It's like, that like compassion, that karuna, and like mixed with the upekkha, the equanimity, right? And so, like having that balance, I think, is quite beneficial, right? And so it's like, like between like going to being completely apathetic, right, and then also being like, I'm going to take on the world. And I see a lot of people do this, right? And it causes a lot of mental distress because they read everything that's going on in the world and all the terrible stuff. And it's like, oh no, and I'm responsible for every single bit of this. And it's like, okay, well, either take a step to aid where you can, or just don't worry about it. But all you're doing is causing mental stress and dukkha, and then you go and lash out at people who are close to you. So where you do actually have an impact, now you're lashing out and causing harm, right? And so the point is like, where can we do, harm reduction here, and where can we come from a place of generosity, directly, and like, what can we actually affect in reality, rather than like living so much in like the conceptual, domain. Right. And that's too, because the conceptual domain is also where people get into really heated, arguments that turn rather, bitter, and there's a lot of dukkha there. So being able to spot that and, abandon that when we can. Yeah. Yeah. But it's that balancing sort of act. But it's much easier to balance when we have like, hey, we can just come back to the breath. We can just come back to what is, here and now, and then proceed joyfully and attend to whatever tasks there are at hand, right? But it's not this big thing where we've got to take on the world and fix everything. I mean, because at the end of the day, like, I mean, this world right here, right, in our direct experience, right, it's like there's nothing really to fix, right? It's just our attitudes. So, like, in the direct experience where dukkha is being formed, like, that's the thing to understand in terms of this practice. So that's the other aspect to it as well. And that world out there, that conditioned world, is never going to lastingly satisfy. But again, that doesn't mean we can't, if we feel like it, from a place of generosity and compassion and non-attachment, go and tend to it, but we will. But it can be joyful and free, but yeah.
Yes.
That's a 2 cents there, so my 2 cents, but I don't lay claim to them.
Very good.
I notice a little bit of a gender. There seems to be, I know just from my experience in life, that women tend to lean more towards the sort of way of that they're responsible for the happiness of the people around them, whereas men seem to be able, I don't know, this is just my experience, we seem to be able to be a bit more detached with other people. Maybe we're just selfish, right? I don't know, we just tend to be able to go, oh yeah, that's their business, they're not happy, then it's not my business. Whereas I don't know, the women that I've been around anyway, perhaps that I've been surrounded by, tend to kind of, oh, I've got to help make this person happy, I've got to help make this person happy, I've got to help make this person happy. Just an observation that I've made over the years anyway. Whereas men tend to be, oh, leave them alone, they can do whatever they want, it's not my business. Yeah. And maybe men are a little too extremely detached and women maybe a bit too attached. I don't know. I'm probably being sexist here, but it's an observation.
And then you have men and women who buck the trend, either way, right? So it just depends. But just sort of noticing that, like, hey, I'm responsible for my own happiness, versus, oh, I'm also responsible for the happiness of everyone around me, right? And it's really, I think, finding that like healthy balance, right? Because like to be, hey, you know what? Yeah, we're responsible for the happiness here first and foremost, but also for not causing harm, right? Like, again, it's, I think that's sort of the thing, because and where, especially with noble right view, the sila comes in, because again, it's like if we have that attitude where we don't want anything, and we're not like lusting after all these different things, we're less likely, like, we're not going to hurt anybody because we don't want anything, right? So we're not going to go out of the way. So it's coming from that place of, hey, it's cool, right? As opposed to, oh yeah, you know what, I need to go get something, And sometimes, yeah, there can be an overreach if we're like, hey, I want to go and fix everyone else's happiness. And so we go in there and try to tinker around, making, ourselves miserable, but also the other person just making them more miserable. So like at the end of the day, I mean, even with the Dhamma itself, it's like you can't force this on anyone, right? We can, if somebody's open to it, we can kind of joyfully, throw out some tools and all that. And if somebody wants to pick them up and go ahead and put in the right effort and, build a raft, that's cool, right? But at the end of the day, we can't force it on them, but we also don't have to go and try. And I mean, this is the ill will aspect of like actually trying to, make somebody miserable, right? I mean, because that's also coming from a place of craving, right? We want to make somebody miserable. So it's like, hey, noticing
at
that
that
and
point,
cutting it
you're a
out. Yeah.
psychopath if you
Yeah.
want to make people miserable. It's like you're so far from Dhamma practice. It's like that's like the hungry ghost demon realm.
Yeah.
If your intention is to hurt people, and you continue to do so, wow.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Well, that's the ill will. I mean, that's the cruelty, right? And so that's like, I mean, the wrong intention, as it's kind of laid out there. And so, but I mean, it's even sometimes seeing it because there's like the gross ways, but even the subtle ways, like, wishing somebody, oh, I don't like that person, or I don't like that person's opinion. I really wish that, something would happen to them so that they'd correct their opinion and then justice would happen and all that sort of stuff, right? So there can be these more subtle forms of ill will that can kind of come in. So like noticing that and noticing the craving there and noticing how it leads to dissatisfaction, even if it doesn't necessarily lead to action, it leads to, pain and suffering here and now for whatever being is conjuring that up. And so that's sort of the aspect of it too. So yeah.
Yeah, when you're satisfied, you don't really have any intention to hurt any being or anybody because that would be like dissatisfaction. Like you were saying, because you're trying to make the world bend to your will. But when you're satisfied, yeah, it's like that old Zen saying, when you're hungry, eat. When you're tired, sleep. When you're washing dishes, just wash the dishes. And if every person, every student just kind of took that one simple phrase and just kind of ran with it, you'd have these thoughts, feelings, emotions arise, anger, hatred, delusion. Oh, but what about when I'm hungry, just eat. When I'm tired, just sleep. When I'm walking, just walk. Then where does that stuff go? It has no business in our reality. That's reality, is the Dhamma, is the truth. These things have no business here. Because it's just even logically, they have nothing to do with anything. It's like if you look at a human race from an airplane, from a bird's eye perspective, it's just a bunch of ants. It's little dots just moving around. That's all we do. We just exist. But we make all these dramas and television shows in our mind and plays of Leela and plays of this and that, and for what? Drop it all, leave it all behind. When you're talking, just talk. Walking, just walk. And you could give that advice to any student and be like, yeah, but what about this? We're not playing the answering questions game. We're not playing the seeking, finding answers game. We're playing the, oh yeah, remember to just look. Remember to just do what you're doing in the moment. And everything's okay. Yeah, but you don't understand. And that's why I like Robert Adams, and very similar to Buddhadasa Bhikkhu in many ways. But he was a great spiritual teacher, and he said, you want enlightenment so bad, it's going to cost you. It's going to cost you something. And what is that? He said, it's your ego. If you can sacrifice your ego, then enlightenment is yours. But that's the cost of it. That's the price. Everything has a price. And some people may not like that, but I like the way he put that, because it's like Yeah, and Buddhadasa Bhikkhu said the head of the snake of dukkha was the ego, was this sense of I, me, and mine. And if you cut off the head of that snake, you know, and you don't have to cut it off with brute force and all these things. Like again, like how Buddhadasa Bhikkhu said, our mind's like a wild caged tiger. You don't have to go in there with spears and risk your life to kill it. Just let it starve with sati. Just remembering to look here and now. Everything's okay. When eating, eat. When drinking, drink. You know, do what you're doing. It's as simple as that. We don't like that. We want to be recognized for our great things. You know, we want to be recognized for our books and recognized for our this and that. So we make it something more than it is, to sell books, to get recognition, to do this bullshit. For what? Just confusing people. One time in a Discord, I was like, we're just a breathing and relaxing club. You know, take religion out of it, take Buddha out of it. We're just a breathing and relaxing and feeling good club. That's all.
Yeah. Sometimes when I talk to some of my other friends who aren't so into practicing Dhamma, I will just be like, oh yeah, I was hanging out with my breath buddies. So
yeah.
Breathing buddies. But yeah, no, it's like, that's it. It's breathing, relaxing. Yeah, being cool with what is.
The ego is very sneaky though, right? Sometimes you think, oh, you know, I've been able to drop the ego, but then I realize that, oh, hang on, that's the ego telling me that. Like, I don't know, I just find it finds ways to sneak back in when you feel like you've sort of, oh no, I haven't got an agenda here, or I'm just, I don't know. That's just been my experience anyway.
You just starve it with sati. Starve it with the realization that the ego actually has no power.
Mm-hmm.
It's just an illusion. It can be a little tool, evolutionary tool to help us along our way. But if you worship it as a god, it becomes your master, and then you're just chasing this, chasing that. And that's why I always, and you guys heard me say this probably a million times, but that's why I always admired Bodhidharma, because when I was reading one of his books, and he didn't have, from what I understand, much writing about that you can actually pinpoint down to him, but for as much as scholars could put together, the writings that they are pretty sure that he wrote, it's all going back to true nature. What's your true nature? And that's where a lot of the Zen traditions still use that today. You'll always hear them say, what's your true nature? What's your true nature? And when you discover that, you're like, oh, it's peace and emptiness.
Mm-hmm.
And you could play the game of, no, it's not technically peace, and there is actually kind of a thing in an emptiness, but basically, fucking basically, we're peace and emptiness, you know, apart from this ego mind.
Mm-hmm. Something
nothing to it.
Yeah, nothing to it. Something that came to mind was, too, that very process, yeah, like you were saying, Dhammadasa, that very process of ego is just merely a process, right? It's also just an illusion on top of it. So we have this, we're like, oh no, I need to get rid of the ego, right? Or something like that. And it's like, no, that it's all just process. Like even that, it's not that there's like this quote unquote ego there. It's just, you know, some structure. And so it's like seeing that, you know, and not identifying, you know, with that. I mean, really a lot of the time it's like, hey, we use some of these things just as a matter of convention, and so kind of understanding that process. But you know, it can, I think, be kind of trapping when it's like, oh, I need to get rid of the ego and I need to like really dissect every single little part of this thing. It's like, no, it's just building this idea that there is even an ego up. It's just like, hey, just see it. That's it for what it is.
Yeah.
It's a
With
process.
sati.
Yeah,
you don't have to go to war with the ego. Yeah, just starve it, like Buddhadasa Bhikkhu was saying. Oh, hi, Edward. Sorry, I had to mute you earlier. We were asking if you could mute your mic, and it wasn't working.
It's so funny because I went to
I
mute my
figured
mic, and then it said that you already did, and then I couldn't. So I was like, I don't know if you can hear me or not.
I thought about that. I'm like, what if I muted his mic and he did at the exact same time?
But yeah, that's what
Create
happened.
some
I think.
time-space
about that.
continuum. Yeah, no worries, dude.
We have
No
the same
worries.
thoughts, dude.
Whenever we're on these calls and anything happens with audio or video, I always just chalk it up to some technical misunderstanding, some technical issue. So no worries, dude. Yeah, so you haven't been talking much. Is there anything that's been on your mind, Dhamma wise?
Talking to me.
Yeah.
Let's see here. I guess the whole should thing, like, I'm pretty sure Buddha didn't say should, but like, if you do these things, then you'll get these results, and we're about good results. Let the fruit like speak for itself.
Mic drop. He's just like, he's like, see ya. Yeah, he's probably got some trouble with his connection. Yeah, I kind of missed what he was saying. Something about not sure or something.
I was talking about should and
Oh, should.
yeah.
Here he is. Hi, Ed. I think your connection kind of.
Yeah.
But what were you saying, dude?
Yeah, I guess how to have a wise relationship with should, like yourself, and watch out for not shoulding on yourself and others. And I guess that's the topic I've been thinking about. What should we do? What should we not? Should we use shoulds?
We have to go beyond shoulding and shouldn'ting. And we should be okay if we even use the word should, or choose not to use them. It's
not
okay.
Yeah, not getting into thou shalt not ever use should.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. But it is helpful, I think, to recognize it, right? And to be bringing that wisdom to it where, oh, maybe that process is really getting into like a strict sort of rule thing. So just being like, oh, being aware of it, understanding like it within its context and whether, it is or is not wholesome. So yeah, because I think, like, again, as a matter of convention, it can be perfectly fine. It just depends upon the context.
Mm-hmm. And what is wholesome and unwholesome, and what is a good attachment versus a negative attachment or bad attachment, or however the hell you want to word it? It's the dukkha.
Yeah.
Is there dukkha there? If there is, you just, like the shit on the road, like we always say, just gently step around it. You don't have to become, pals with it. You don't have to hate it. Just step around it. Good day. Hello. Goodbye. And then it goes away. But yeah, and then because we're living in a world where there's shit, sometimes you're going to find some shit again. And then you just have to have enough effort and enough discipline to look. And it's just as much as if you're walking in a park. It's such a good shit analogy. Because it doesn't require a lot of discipline or banging your head against a wall. You're just in the back of your mind. You've been on this earth for a while. If you're in a park where there's lots of geese or dogs, you got to look out for it. It's in the back of your mind, And yeah, then you're fine. And everything's fine. Right here, right now.
Yeah, it's like, hey, you have that intention, not to step in the shit. But if you do, it's like, hey,
that's okay
no
too.
point.
Just watch.
Yeah, no point in freaking out and being like, oh my gosh, I stepped, and then you go and step in some more, right? Because you weren't paying attention. It's like, oh no, we wake up, dust it, clean up. Okay, cool. And then we just keep an eye out. Yeah, move on.
Yes. That's probably why the Buddha was like, for especially for beginners, like go into isolation, because he's like, maybe try going to a place where there's not so much shit, so you're not overwhelmed with shit. So go into isolation or go to that part of the park where there's not too much shit. That's a good training ground.
Getting into seclusion. I mean, and the benefit too is we can see, oh, the shit that's coming up in our own mind, like that we're concocting, like when there's nothing, yeah, like there's nothing around, right? It's like there's not this stimuli, so we can see, oh, all that stuff from the past, all those habits, you know, is giving rise to all this dukkha, and how that's being concocted, and how we can just be like, oh, we can see that process, and we can throw it out, we can abandon it, we don't have to, you know, we don't have to, we can throw out the garbage, you know, we don't have to let it stink.
Have you guys ever seen Ajahn Suchart on YouTube? He's like one of my favorites. It's Suchart, Ajahn Suchart. And he does Dhamma in English, and he's really interesting because he's a Thai Buddhist monk, but his English, he speaks so well. Because he actually went to school in the States for a period. But he kind of teaches a kind of a mundane type of, you know, but it doesn't really matter, because after you listen to him talk a few times, he's really just teaching like the noble Dhamma, however you want to cut it. But and so is Jesus and all this stuff. But when I listen to him, he's very good at just like making things so simple. And it's just like everything's anicca, dukkha, anatta, you know, and he'll call it mindfulness, you know, for his English listeners and viewers. And he'll just be like, everything's anicca, dukkha, anatta, you know, just practice mindfulness. Just practice mindfulness. Just do what you're doing. And I don't know, for whatever reason, when I'm experiencing dukkha sometimes, I think of him and his simple message. And do you guys ever get that, where you'll think of different practitioners or teachers, and you kind of gravitate more towards one, and you may not even know why, but they seem to help you in moments of dukkha? I don't know. For me, it's that guy. So if you guys are ever interested on YouTube, he's fucking awesome. Okay, Luke. Oh, has Luke been here? Luke replaced. Oh yeah, your camera went out, so I was like, wait a minute. But Ajahn Suchart, yeah, sweet dude. Yeah, and he has a lot of audio books that his YouTube channel creates, and I've read a few. I read the biography of Ajahn Moon on there, and there's another one I'm reading. I forget the name of it, but he always has these wonderful audio books that are very nice to read, very, very helpful. But like Dhammarato always says, the best book is between our ears. Oh, there you are, Luke. I thought we had some new person on because I didn't see your camera. I'm horrible with names.
No, sorry. I popped
I'm
away
perfect
for a minute,
with
and
names.
I always feel like it's rude to kind of walk away and just leave my camera on. I don't know, and then come back.
Uh,
And, I don't know. Anyway, doesn't matter, I guess.
all good.
Yeah.
All good in the hood.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm familiar
fellas. Oh, go ahead, buddy.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I'm the monk you were just talking about, Suchart. When I was in Thailand in January, I tried to go and see him, but
Good.
he wasn't at the. Unfortunately, I was with other people, and Thai people, and I don't think they really knew exactly where he was. So they kind of took me to this temple, but he wasn't there. But anyway, that's cool. But I
Okay.
was hoping to go and just kind of pay my respects to him, because I listened to
Nice.
him a bit too. He's very good. Good
Yeah.
man.
Hours and hours of
Decent.
content. Like, it's incredible. Just like Ajahn Sumedho.
Yeah.
Yeah, he always stresses too the importance of a teacher in the Dhamma practice, especially for beginners. But he always says, he's like, you know, it's not like the Buddha's times. We have the internet. So he's like, you don't need to travel to Thailand to see me. He's like, I'm right here. You could just listen to these talks if you like. And that's, I thought that was so gracious and cool. Just like Dhammarato, you know. So we don't always have to travel. He probably would like if you traveled to Thailand, but we don't always have to travel to Thailand. He's right there. And the Buddha's right there, and the Buddha's in between our ears, you know. So we don't have to travel anywhere. Sit in your room if you want. You don't even have to go to the forest, really. Wherever you are, your true nature is shining. Well, dudes, we'll probably wrap it up unless anybody has anything else they'd like to talk about or before we leave.
Just want to say thank you for hosting Dhammadas, and thank you, DJ Luke, everybody come in and stuff. I had a really good, wonderful time.
You're awesome, Alexander. You're awesome,
Thanks,
DJ
man.
and Luke and Eddie, Edvard,
Thanks, man.
wherever you may be, Eddie.
I know. Thanks for hosting Dhammadasa, and
Oh, yeah,
thanks
no
for the
problem.
company, guys. Luke and
You guys are
Alexander,
Yeah.
awesome.
you know, Paul and Edward.
Much peace and love, dudes.
All right.
See you guys.
Catch you later.
Peace.